Okay, good evening, everyone. I'm Brian Daniels. I'm Chair of the Finance Committee. I'm going to call this special Finance Committee meeting to order. To my right is Vice Chairman Shamik. I also have committee members Castro, Brunet, and Batista. We have the Deputy Mayor Cardona. We also have Councilors Williams and Carabetta. We have Mayor Scarpati, and we have a whole host of other guests with us tonight that will be introduced as we go down the line. We also have the Council Clerk, Lori Canny. So the first thing we have is a public hearing. The item number 1 is item number 12 of 6/17/19, a resolution regarding the capital project budget for the fiscal year 2020. The legal notice. The Finance Committee of the Mayor and City Council will hold a special public hearing on Monday, July 8th, 2019, which is scheduled at 5:30 p.m. in Council Chambers, Room 206, City Hall, 142 East Main Street, Marion, Connecticut, to consider the following. Item number 1, which is item number 12 of 6/17/19, resolution regarding the capital project budget for fiscal year 2020. There's another item, but we'll get to that second. At this hearing, all interested parties may appear and be heard, and written communications will be received. The text of the resolution is on file for public review in the City Clerk's office, room 124, City Hall, date is 28th day of June 2019. So what we're doing, we have 2 resolutions that are for public hearing tonight. One is the capital project budget, which is bonding for all of the capital improvements that the City Council has already approved in prior budgets, and the other one is in connection with the library renovation. So this first one, I'm asking if anyone wants to comment on the bonding for the capital improvement projects that have been previously approved by the City Council.
Yeah, I'll comment.
Okay, please step up to the microphone, state your name and address for the record.
You gotta tell all these people.
Mr. Petroselli, please
Yeah.
speak politely
You gotta
at
tell-
the
you gotta tell
microphone.
all these people.
Can you state your name and address for the record, please?
Petroselli, I live in Meriden.
Okay. Go
All
ahead,
right?
Mr. Petroselli.
You satisfied now?
I'm satisfied that you are now following the decorum of the room.
You gotta tell all these people, most people don't know bonding, that's borrowing. Borrowing money. That's what it's all about. And this is all these people always do, bond. All over the planet they bond. And what is the juice they have to pay? It must be more than they borrowed. Most of you people here don't have too much upstairs. The way you spend the taxpayers' money, you're supposed to be very prudent when you're spending other people's money. I know I am. I'm close, but I'm closer with other people's money. But most of you people don't care. For that matter, just a couple care. But you know, I do.
Okay, does anyone else wish to speak on the bonding of previously approved projects?
David James, 11 Carl Street. I'm walking into this meeting. I'm not sure what all the previously approved bonding projects are. If the Record Journal is accurate, I'm to assume that that involves at least a linear trail. Is that correct?
The entire list was
It was published in the
yeah.
newspaper. Okay.
And it's also, there may be a copy over there. If not, the council clerk will have a
Okay.
copy.
We don't need to belabor it, but I think maybe it would be appropriate for everyone in the room who pays cash on the barrelhead for all of their transactions to raise their hand. I don't see hands up.
Mr. Jim, you got to address the council.
I'm sorry. So I'm assuming that people borrow.
Sure.
I'm assuming that people invest. All right? Borrowing is an investment. Sometimes you need to borrow for an investment if your return is going to be greater. So I'd like to speak in favor of the bonding projects, especially in regard to the linear trail, because I think it pays back umpteen-fold in terms of recreation and resiliency for the people. It gives them something to do other than walk on sidewalks and walk on the street. And specifically, the area in question for the linear trail, is in the vicinity of Platt High School, which the sidewalks in that area, I've lived there 35 years, the sidewalks have never been done. There are 4 schools in that area. So it's a worthwhile investment just for sidewalks alone. So that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Anyone else wishing to speaking on the previously approved projects? Okay.
Dan Zabrowski, reside at Fiesta Heights in Meriden. Bonding, I think we got to stop. $166 million we owe in the city. Platt High School, Maloney High School, everything else. But how much do we actually have out in bonds? Probably over $200 million in debt. This has got to stop. It really is. I mean, I understand, yes, there are things that are out there. But have we ever thought, let's bond something for our seniors? Let's get them a new facility. They want to put one over there next to the old Meriden Wallingford Hospital. But again, bonding? No, I'm sorry. The whole logistics behind the thing is, if you don't have it, if you want it, you have to go out and get it. But if you don't have the money, guess what? It's just the same thing with your household. You just have to say, well, we have to look forward somewhere else we can get money or whatever, grants, whatever. And hopefully, this has got to stop in the city of Meriden. I mean, a lot of our seniors, their pocketbooks are being raped because the city wants to go out, bond, spend money just frivolously. And again, looking at, the whole situation, and guess who else you hurt when you start bonding and you start putting money out there? You're hurting every business person in the city of Meriden. At the last meeting when I went to the library, it's only going to be a $100 increase. Well, guess what? The $100 increase goes to private enterprise. It goes to people who have just little businesses like lawns or carpentry or anything else. Guess what? All their equipment falls under the same category. And hopefully, again, think about it. Because this city is basically broke with $166 million, and not counting whatever's being bonded prior to that. Thank you.
Anyone else?
Yes. My name is Reverend Ernestine Holloway. I live 300 Britannia Street. In case the public don't know what bonding is, it's layaway. I buy it now, get it for credit, and pay it later. If I ran my house the way you guys are running this bonding thing, I'd be broke. I'm not for bonding. We can't afford it. My thing with bonding is the next generation behind me, when y'all all gone and I'm gone, they're still going to have to pay this. So we have generations upon generations that's going to inherit this debt. So the decisions that you're making today, tomorrow's generation will pay for. And I don't think it's fair. I don't think it's right that they inherit something that you guys did. If we can't pay for it, then we shouldn't have it. We really shouldn't. You guys are not micromanaging what you're doing with our money. Oh yeah, bonding, we getting grants. It's still taxpayers' money. It come out of somebody's pocket. So I really don't get this. And as a citizen of Meriden, I don't appreciate it. And I hope the people are paying attention. Because they're going to have to pay this. Our mill rate is over 40. Nobody's higher than us than New London. So when you can't pay it, then you go back to the taxpayer and go, we got to raise this because we can't pay for that. That's why I'm against bonding.
Anyone else? Going once? Going twice? Okay, that public hearing's closed. We have the second item on the public hearing, which is item number 12 of July 1/19, resolution regarding the amendment to GPIB number 76, library renovation, $9,300,000. And the notice I previously read is the same notice that was published with respect to this item. So this is the time if people want to speak about the proposed bonding for the library renovation. So is there anyone here that wants to speak on that?
I don't know how what you people are gonna expect to get here, $9 or $10 million. What is the matter with this library down here now? The library budget probably is close to $3 million for the help. Last time I got some paperwork, it was $2 million plus for a library. These people get paid serious money down at the library. This town doesn't need a fancy library, just like all the other fancy libraries around the world. Some are satisfactory, mostly all of them are satisfactory. People go in the library, they're not looking at the facade or something of that nature. They're going in the library to get a book, but nowadays you could get everything with that little machine people carry around. Any kind of information you want from all over the world, at touch your finger. You don't even have to go outside. Go out and go to the library. I don't know what the traffic is over there, but I'm sure it's not what it was years ago. Years ago, they had right across the street a library over the west side, and I don't know where the other one was. I think it was the same place. I'm not sure. But the libraries are nice, but I believe they're going out. I mean, why would you want to spend the money you people want to spend, the taxpayers' money, doing what you're planning on doing? I have no idea why. I guess some people know somebody that knows somebody else that needs a little architectural work, a little brick work, a little of this and a little of that. Look at the libraries. The schools. How many millions of dollars did they cost? And why did they build them so neatly and nicely? Basically, they did that for the teachers, not the youngsters. When I went to school, we didn't have busing or air conditioning or
Mr.
anything of that
Petroselli,
nature.
if you can focus on the bonding for the library. That's the public hearing we're having right now. Thank you.
Well, it's not necessary.
Thank you.
And all these people here, they should come up here when all these people, friends of the library, they're up here for one thing: to benefit the system and their organization. That's the bottom line. The bottom line all over the planet. If you don't have the money, why borrow the money from some outfit that's going to rob you on the juice you're going to pay? But see, you people don't pay attention to me. You don't pay attention to a lot of people that come up here and tell you how it is. You don't like it. You just don't like it. That library down there is sufficient. You could clean it up a little, put a little more new lighting in it, and it'd be perfect. But no, you people got the idea that they have to improve it. So you borrow the money, and you pay the juice. And generations that go along are going to be paying the juice the same way. This town is terrible. Been a Democratic town for probably 40 years. And nobody cares. Nobody cares. Very few care about what's going on. I think some of this stuff that's going on is criminal.
Mr. Petroselli, please stick to the comments on the bonding. If you want to accuse somebody of being a crime, be very specific so that we have it on the record.
You could have a lot of things on the record.
Okay, do you have anything else to say about the bonding, Mr. Petroselli?
You're fools.
Thank
That's
you.
what you are, including you.
Does anyone else wish to speak on the bonding? Mr. James?
Okay, David James, 11 Carl Street. I'm not just going to go back and forth all night, it's kind of silly, but same argument as last one. Lived in this town most of my life. My kids go to, I have 5 kids. Unfortunately, they don't use the Meriden Library as much as they use the Wallingford and Middletown libraries. I'm proud of my town, basically. I've lived here, as I say, most of my life. Libraries make a big difference to towns. When we pick a place we're going to go visit or we go on vacation, it's the way we are, we look at the library. It's one of the things we look at. We like to have a place to go that's comfortable, that we feel like there's activity going on there. Libraries are important. So I don't know the particulars. With the bonding, I read the amounts of money. Budgeting is a bit beyond me, but I can speak favorably about the impact of libraries on town, and they're good economic drivers. So that's all I have to say.
Does anyone else wish to speak? Yes, sir.
Ladies, gentlemen, my name is Maurice Poirier. The library is the last bastion of total free expression. The children today use the library as well as the internet to educate themselves. We talk about investing. Invest in your children today. We sit home fat, dumb, and happy to save money. We want to pay taxes. You get what you pay for. We see our government cutting education money. Who's going to suffer? We won't suffer. It's our children, our future. Think of the future in your children. They are the future. And the library is one of the last bastion where you can learn unfettered by democratic decisions. Freedom of speech, freedom to learn. Don't take it away from them. Improve it, make it better than it's ever been. If you pay visits to the other libraries in the state, you will see what it's possible to do to encourage kids to come in. That's all I have to say.
Anyone else?
Yes, my name is Reverend Holloway. You know I live in Britannia. I think everybody know. I'm a fan of the libraries. I'm just not a fan of $9 million. Now, do the library offer great services? Yes, they do. Them ladies help me when I'm in a bind and I'm trying to make flyers and all kind of stuff that I don't know how to do. I don't have issues with that. I just don't want to spend $9 million. I think there should be a happy medium. We don't need a cafe. I think that we need to go back to the table and the public plus the city council and the board that's over here and have a happy medium. Going up $100 is a lot for some people when they can't make $2 over lunch meat and they can't pay the mortgage or the rent or all the things, water, that's all being taxed. So this become a hot issue. Do children go to the library? Absolutely. Is it packed? Absolutely. When we're fighting for computers, talking about, nah, I need to do this. No, miss, you've been in here a long time. I get that. So to say that they're not learning there, I'm not going to say that, not me. But what I'm going to say is if you do a $9 million library, I'm going to put it to a referendum and see what the city got to say, the people in the city. I am sick and tired of all this expensive stuff. Do you need to fix it? Absolutely. How are we going to do it? I really don't know. But I do know this. It won't be $9 million worth. I don't get it. And I think that this is the most of our problems. That the budget is so huge. If you didn't have other huge projects, maybe this wouldn't be a big deal. But you do. And we go back to bonding. I don't want my daughter, who's 24, that wants to buy a house, to not be able to afford one and be taxed to death because you guys put everything in bonding and they're going to have to pay for it. Like I said, we need to go back to the table. Because if you do this, I promise you, we're gonna do a referendum. So I'm just letting you know up front. Nope, not playing no games. I'm an advocate for the people. They want a library, but they don't want a $9 million one. So we need to figure this out. And if we can't do it together, then let the people decide, should you spend $9 million instead of a group of people when it's we the people, not just 20, 30 people making this decision. It's an important decision. Thank you.
Anyone else? Ma'am, in the back? Oh, I'm sorry, there was the woman in the back, had her hand up first. You can go next. I don't know her name, it's a woman in the back.
Thank you. My name's Laura Van Warmer, and I live at 425 Allen Avenue. I wasn't intending on speaking tonight, but I felt obligated, so I put pearls in my pocket in case I did, as a sign of respect for the City Council. I just wanted to say, to know why the renovation is so badly needed, you need to use the library. It's really that simple, that the people who come in and take books out every day, or use the computers, or the staff who goes upstairs to work on the back office, as it were, it's just like if you hadn't remodeled your kitchen since 1972, there might be room for improvement. Anyway, what this reminded, hearing some of these voices, reminds me of when we were doing research about the Curtis Center across the street. And we found all these articles about protests in the street of Meriden when Augusta Curtis offered to build that library for this city. And the protests were, a lot of people didn't see why factory workers needed books. And it was wrong to have a library, a public library in Meriden. It sounds the same to me. And I will just say that the public library is the only place where people without funds can get higher education. You know, when you get over a certain age, you can't go to the public schools. You know, it's nice what Platt looks like, but nobody else can use it. I mean, the kids do, and it's great that we have it. But that library is the only place you can go to find out what you need to know to be able to find a job or to improve your life. Anyway, that's all I wanted to say. And I urge anybody to go in and really take your time and do some of the fundamental tasks that people go to the library to do, and you'll see it. You'll see where those it's where the shelves are located. It's where older people can't read the book titles, because they're way down. There's no room for the teenagers to sit anywhere. I heard a complaint the other day about, well, why can't I get on the internet, to wherever they wanted to go? And this was a person who was a banker who hadn't been in the library in 30 years. And I just said, well, the reason why you can't is because we have safeguards on the internet so that people can't go to porn sites and stuff, because we have to protect the children. Anyway, it's a complicated building. There's a lot going on. And I just urge everybody, go in and do some of the simple tasks, and you will see in the New York Minute what the problems are and throughout the building. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Steve Valpini. I live at 562 Baldwin Avenue, Meriden. For me, the library, a library in any town, as David James has talked about it, is sort of the center of the town. It's the gem, often, of many communities. I grew up in a blue-collar town, Southbridge, Massachusetts, just about an hour from here. Now it's a poorer community than it was when I was growing up. But it still has the Jacob Edwards Memorial Library, which is a gem. It's a fabulous library. It's been kept up to date and improved several times. And I'm proud to think of that as my hometown library. And I was impressed by the library when I came here as well. But I don't use all of the library. I go and I look up information and I find the book that I want, and most often I go and find it myself on the shelf, and if it's not there, it's interlibrary loan, and that's fine. But as I understand it, what will be added to the library this time, if it's I hope the upper level that you go for the whole thing, the $9.3 million renovation, because you do need a larger children's room. And that came home to me forcefully about half a dozen years ago when a friend of mine started a program that he called Baseball Biblioteca, baseball in the library. And it was mainly for the kids who were living at the mills at that time. And the idea was that he gathered the kids around and he found people to buy gloves and baseballs for the folks. And he's been a coach off and on over the years in many sports. So that was the sort of the way that he got the kids to come to the library. If they came to the library and got a card and got books and read the books, and sat with adults and showed off their reading skills and everything, then they would get the baseball. Then they would get to play some baseball. And it was a great success. And some of the kids that came were already great readers. They were terrific readers, and they would point out what level they were in reading. They were sophisticated enough to know if they were in the third grade and they were reading at a fourth grade, second semester level. They knew that. They were aware of that, especially the good readers. Some of the kids were not wonderful readers, but other kids helped them out. But we were so crowded. There might have only been 4 or 5 adults there, each of us with one child. And there just wasn't enough space for a small program like that. And there should have been more books for the kids as well. Some of them had some pretty esoteric interests. It wasn't just dinosaurs and sports and that sort of thing that kids like. These kids were into some of them more sophisticated chapter books, and they were very proud of themselves. And they loved having a library card, and they loved coming back every week and getting a new book or several books. It was great for them. But they need a larger children's room. Any program like that needs a larger children's room, but a more sophisticated children's room with more computer systems. They've got the games, and the kids have fun there who are not yet into their reading years, but they need more. And I didn't know how much more they needed until I was part of that program. So I hope that you go for the best. Thanks.
Ma'am?
My name is Karen Nangle. I live on Thorpe Avenue. I've been in Meriden for 18 years, and I want to urge you to approve the bonding issue, because a strong library sends a very powerful message to the people who want to live and work in Meriden. It says the city values all its constituencies and wants to provide opportunities for everyone to grow and gain the skills that they'll need to succeed in the 21st century. Education will improve, people will move here. Businesses will move here. The city will thrive, and I think it's really important to have a library that can cope with what's coming down the pike.
Sir?
Michael Collins, Columbus Avenue. I use the library. My wife uses the library. We used it most of our lives, all our lives. But I look around the room here, and I don't see too many people that don't have gray hair, which is indicates to me that, as a reality, the younger generation does not use a library. They use Kindle and Google. They can find anything in the world with those, at least those two and a few others. So therefore, utilization of the library is not as heavy as it was. I go to the library, I don't see too many people there. They're well intent on what they're doing, but there's no lineup to get into the library. Our library needs improvement. That's great, that's nice. I'm looking at the project scope here, and there's all kinds of code upgrades, mechanical upgrades, lighting, energy upgrades, which could be essential, because it was built a few years ago. Some of these things I don't understand too well, such as Holocaust collection. Do we have one? We do. Put away someplace that nobody ever sees, right? It's out there? Pardon me?
Not yet, we just donated.
Okay. I belong to the Holocaust Society down in Atlantic City. The food. Cafe, vending machines I can see. Do we have, I never go into any other area. Do we have vending machines in the library now? No vending machine, do we? But a cafe, is that necessary? I mean, who's it for, the employees or the public? Right? How's it going to be? Is it going to be somebody serving the food or just vending machines? Is it going to be like a break room or what? That's questionable in my opinion. Okay. Upgrade the toilets. Yeah, that can always be happening. That I can see that. And the teenage room, the children's library, meetings and programs. I've been to a couple. I was part of a couple. They're not well attended. Do we need larger meeting rooms? Who are they for? The public or for special interest groups? I'm saying, yes, the library could use improvements, but $9 million worth? I don't know. Are we going to make it into some grandiose full glass structure like Platt High School? Their library is all glass walled, but it's all enclosed and not for public use. Are we going to have something like that, or something nice and, relatively moderate? Why buy a Cadillac when you can improve your Chevy and it won't cost as much? I say improve it, but I'm not sure about $9 million.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Tom Welsh. I'm at 253 Dexter Avenue in Meriden. I'm an attorney and live here in town. And recently, I volunteered to become a member of the Board of Trustees of the library, and the mayor nominated me, and I'm happy to say. And the reason for that is that this is why one poor boy, the library was why one poor boy got to grow up, get educated, and become a lawyer. So I felt that there was a need to give back. And in part of that process, over the past few months, I've had a chance to sit in on the building committee. There's been a building committee working on this for the past 2 years of some of our finest citizens. And a wide variety of these citizens who've done a needs analysis, who've gone into these items, questions that you've been discussing tonight, who have realized that the current library, and the library, by the way, as has been pointed out, serves the entire community, not just the children, not just the seniors, not just any particular area, all of them. And is changing. It's becoming more and more part of the community. It's a dynamic and changing environment. That environment needs a proper space. This building was built in the 1970s. It is leaking. It has many deficiencies that you've heard about. Then the building committee went into this in great detail. Please don't think that this is being done willy-nilly. You're going to hear a lot of good reasons why we should be going with this particular option. But two struck me as being the most. And the first one being that we're going to be spending $9 million. or $8 million after a $1 million state grant, which is why we've got to get this thing done soon because that state grant may disappear. 9 million or 8 million. If an 8 million, we've identified that the $8 million renovation will improve some code things, but will not satisfy all those needs. Why are we building something, spending $8 million or a lesser sum on something that's not going to satisfy our need, that we're going to kick ourselves for later and wind up paying even more when we have to do the next renovation? That was the first good point. The second point, and I've heard people say, well, why can't we either go to another site or have a library at another thing? I think the Curtis building was one of the ones that was mentioned in one of our earlier meetings. The one advantage of this particular proposal is that by building the addition, you build the addition and the extra meeting space first. You then, as you renovate each portion of the library, you move that portion that's being renovated into the swing space. So we don't lose any parking. You don't have staff running into temporary buildings, and therefore the library can continue to run, and we don't diminish the staff time or this parking for people to actually use the library. Remember that what we select and the way we build this also will affect the operating budget going forward. It costs money to run a library, to have staff going forward. And if we have more than one space, if we have more than one location that we have to, or we begin losing the parking area spaces, we're going to lose attendance, and we're going to lose also, it's going to cost us more money, more funds in the operating budget, which would not be prudent. For those really two good reasons, you're going to hear a lot more of the technical details, but I wanted to point out, because some of the comments that we heard earlier, I strongly disagree with, and I strongly recommend that you approve the proposal that's before you tonight. Thank you.
Sir?
My name is Bill Glick. I live on Hillcrest Terrace, and I want to speak in favor of the $9.3 million proposal. When I came to Meriden in the 1960s, Meriden was a very different place than it is now. And back then, that's what we would call, I think, the analog age. We're now in the digital age, and we have to have a library that reflects that. And over the years, the library that was built has sort of jerry-rigged and cobbled together a few concessions to the fact that we now live in a digital age. And this is what the library has to accomplish. And I have to point out that the library serves two very important constituencies in this city. And one is the children. The fact that the library supports and encourages and enlarges the educational work that the Board of Education is doing, and the Board of Education, if they didn't have a good library, would be much disadvantaged in their objectives. The second thing is that despite all the Kindles and all that, there are a great many people in this community who don't have the means to have digital equipment. And they have to go to the library to get it. They don't have it in their homes, and they're very much disadvantaged by not having access to information they need to educate themselves, to advance themselves in the community, to have higher jobs, better salary, and advance themselves socially and economically. Thank you.
There was someone over here that was standing up. Frank?
Frank Ridley speaking at this point only for myself. I am totally in favor of this renovation. First off, the library is the most heavily used building in the city. And it's used by all age groups. Karen has these statistics. I'm sure she'd be happy to share them with anybody who wants them. And it has been the most heavily used building in the city since it's been built. It was built in the 1970s. Well, for all intents and purposes, there hasn't been much done to it since then. And just to structure the building itself needs to be upgraded. So that's the first thing. Second, when it was built in the 1970s, the way we educated children is not the way they are educated today. So the children's room is totally inadequate for the needs to bring into the 21st century, and that's true with the teen center as well. As far as the use of the meeting rooms is concerned, those meeting rooms are booked in many cases 6 months to a year in advance. You can't get a meeting date in many cases. There is a strong need for that in this community, and what better place to do it than in the library? The library does a great deal more than lend out books. It has a host of other things. We have people that come into the library to ask one of the staff to help them with their phone or things along that line. So it really is a community center for just about everything in this city. And I think that any money that we spend would be well served in doing so. The other thing I would just point out is that there isn't a great deal of difference between what it would cost not doing the addition and just doing the interior renovation. And you'll hear more about that later. For the fact that we're getting an addition with it makes it just that much more sense to go forward and do the whole thing at this time.
Sure.
Hi, my name is Barbara Austin. I live at 62 Hillcrest Terrace, and I am a librarian by profession, so obviously I'm going to say I am in favor of the proposal to bond for the new library. I agree with almost everybody who has come up here and said that they support the bonding. One thing that struck me the most was that there are an awful lot of kids. Somebody said that they can't even afford to pay their water bill or their taxes or whatever. Well, those are the people who can't afford to give their kids a computer. And if you don't have a computer these days, you are not going to succeed. And people who don't have a very stable home life go to the library to find a job, to improve themselves in a myriad of ways. It's more, as someone said, it's much more than just books. I see the library becoming an absolutely amazing community center that Meriden could be extremely proud to call its own. And I urge you very much to support the bonding. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Dean Poyer, 24 Preston Drive. I also support the full plan. And also, I just have a couple questions I'd like to direct to Karen. What year did Wallingford Library finish their renovation? 2008. And it was a $12 million renovation in 2008. Right. Right. So I think that considering many people were comparing the Wallingford Library services to our library, considering they spent $12 million back in 2008, and we're looking at $9 million in 2020 by the time things roll. I think that it is a very sensible, fiscally responsible opportunity to give this community the same kind of services that are desperately needed. Teens today spend so much of their time in social media. To have a teen room where kids would be able to do more interacting is so vital. Another question I just want to direct to Karen, how much savings did you occur when you changed?
I'm sorry. I'm sorry, you can't really direct questions. I mean, what you can do is you can raise questions and we'll get them answered during the meeting.
Well, I know that Karen had turned our library's efficiency from oil to gas and had an enormous amount of savings. So we've already downsized and saved a lot. When stores went out of business in town,
she schlepped over there with other people and got extra shelving when places went out of business. I mean, the dedication from all the staff, especially from Karen, who has given so much to the leadership, has to be recognized. And I also say that the most important thing for us, as has been said before, that our services at the library is the most utilized public place in the city, and will continue. And we really want to offer the future these opportunities. If they're talking about a cafe, what better place for people to sit and talk and spend time with one another and listen. It fosters fellowship, it fosters ideas. It's very important to have the new type of library that's going to service this community. Thank you very much.
Yes, good evening. Bruce Birchstead from 16 Spice Apple Lane, Meriden, Connecticut. Oh, the microphone's over here. Is that? I just wanted to make one point. That was the question in bonding for this particular purpose is as I see it, an investment. And the investment that we're talking about here is for our youth, for our, both the younger children and for the teenagers. So often I hear complaints that there's nothing for kids to do in town. And this is a very important direction that we're moving in, to give a much more, a place where the kids can meet, where they can really learn new things, and so they can be creative and keep them occupied and off the streets. So the amazing thing about this program is that it only costs $9 million. It's a project that you're putting together here that in other communities would be a much more expensive project. So I very much support the bonding of this program. Thank you.
Is anyone else? Sir?
My name is Britt Hall. I live on Susan Lane. Or I'm sorry, Beth Ann Circle. I moved and I forgot it. I am not one for spending money that we don't have, but I am one for spending money and spending in a good light. We looked, my wife and I went down and we looked and were there when the architects were there and spoke with them, and we saw the outline of all three possibilities that they presented. With the most expensive one, which I hate to say that's the one I really favor, because we will be getting a lot more for our buck than we will on the other two. And if you remember, with all the bonding that we've done for years and years and years, how many of the buildings that we spent or we built in the last few years are being renovated and worked over again? This time, if you spend a little bit more money in the beginning and have it done and done right, it's one of the factors of this building. They couldn't add on the way they wanted to because the superstructure wasn't proper. But we always seem, because we have something in our city ordinance that we're supposed to take the cheapest price, which is not correct. You get what you pay for. And years ago, when we had a company in this town, the H. Wells Lines, built many of our buildings in this town, and one is the old hospital down there. They don't know how the hell to take it down because it's so strong. It's been there for years and years, but the last few we got are slapped up, tremendous prices, and we do not have people who are looking after us, the older people who are paying a lot of taxes, and I don't want to pay any more than anyone else does. But I'd rather get some money, and if it's bonding we have to do, it's the way of the American life now. Just look around. Nobody It's a credit card. Everything's a credit card. So why don't we come back and give the old taxpayers, which I happen to be one now, I know I'm in the old field, ready to go to pasture, and I don't want to spend any more money than we have to, but I believe if they do and they go along with this presentation that they have for the 9 million renovation, or it's more than a renovation really. It's a lot of work being done that wasn't done properly in the beginning years ago. So if you're going to bond something, which a lot of us don't really want to do, the old timers especially, but in order to make another new building in our town, whether it be the library, the fire station, or anything, it's about time we bonded and did it right and have a committee that knows what the hell they're doing, and they have people on a committee that know about construction, not just the great thing for the children and everything else. That's great. But this is money that our taxpayers are paying for. So please keep that in mind. If you're going to bond it properly. Thank you.
Ma'am, in the back?
My name is Joan Dion, and I live at Reynolds Drive here in Meriden. I'm a fairly newcomer to Meriden, only about 25 years. I'm a Wallingford resident, and this is my first time in the chamber. I think that some of us here tonight have missed a very important point. They have said that we have Google, we have Kindle, all these things. You don't even have to leave your home to become educated and to do. Think about that. Think about the bombers and the shooters who didn't leave home, who got all their information for bombs and weapons from the internet at home. What we need in the library is for people to come face to face, to exchange ideas, to debate, to constructively argue a point, as we're doing here tonight. We could all be sitting home doing this on Google, but where would it get us? We wouldn't know each other. We wouldn't know how to work together. It isn't just our children that are losing this. It's our adults. It's our old people. It's our elderly people who are at home who could be coming to the library for groups. Your meeting rooms can be used for your elderly people to come have knitting classes, coloring classes, argument, debating classes. But they would be interacting with each other instead of sitting home and going on Google and learning to make bombs and weapons. Thank you.
I'm looking around the room. Are there any other hands going up?
Joe Valano, 410 Park Avenue. So that was a unique angle on why we need a new library. Listen, needs versus wants. That's what this is all about. Do we need it or do we want it? We want it $9.3 million. I'm looking at this. Whose is this? Can I borrow this for a second? Just look at this. All these things, all these addings that we're doing on here. Again, this council thinks very short term because all this right here, do you know what this counts to? Not $9.3 million. This is $9.3 million for a starting point. All the extra staff you're going to need for this, all the extra maintenance you're going to need, all the heating costs. This is not a $9.3 million project. This is a lot more for the taxpayers. Again, need versus wants. You're right, we're in a digital age. We had computers, now it's right here. Digital age has made things smaller, more compact. We need to reutilize the space we have at the library now. We bought thousands of square feet at the Curtis Center you could use for meeting rooms. Utilize it. The city owns it. Why not? You don't need, you could take the 2 meeting rooms next to the children's place, expand the children's. You're right. I go to the library. I go to the library a lot. I have 2 young kids. The schools have great libraries. We need to utilize the library for what is the current needs, which is for the older adults who are using the library. And that's expanding the computer spaces. We don't need $9.3 million. People keep comparing us to the $12 million Wallingford. Let me give everybody a reality check. We are not Wallingford. We do not have Wallingford money in this city. You know, we were sold the bill of goods just 5-10 years ago that we build the green, we build all these new projects, we give all this money away to developers, that businesses will come into the city of Meriden. And if anyone has been down on Colony Street or anywhere else in between, there hasn't been a single business that's come in. But if we spend money, miraculously, everything's going to be okay. It's not. It's not. Now, they say that this is for education of our young children. Our teenagers have a place to go. I don't see a damn child here. And thank you, Mr. Collins, I didn't want to say it. That there's no young people here. Maybe you want this to feel good about yourselves. I don't know. I don't know what's in your hearts. I can tell you what's in mine, that I'm not going to burden my children, who I hope live here for the next 50 to 80 years, with another burden of $9.3 million. Like I said, that's a starting point. That's not what this is going to cost. By the time this is all said and done, you're going to have a $9.3 million building made, and then the library is going to want more staff. That's more resources for the city. Like I said, plus all the utility costs and all the other ancillary things that go along with it. You're talking almost an extra $300,000 to $400,000 a year annually for the library.
3 or 4 million.
I mean, come on, let's be realistic here, ladies and gentlemen. We can't afford it. The city's broke. The residents are tapped. We can't bring businesses into the city. And if anyone thinks that people are moving to the city of Meriden because of a library, there's a serious problem with your thinking. You could go to the Wallingford Library. You could go to the Berlin Library. They're all free places. Meriden can't afford it. That's the bottom line. And to have a food court, a food area, really? Come on. Yeah, and you're taking away money from local businesses. Just think what you're doing there. You're hurting the businesses outside. We have a downtown coffee shop maybe less than a quarter mile away. You want to meet somewhere? Go meet there. Go patron a local business. The city doesn't need to be in the food area, food court business. The city loves to spend money. They love it. I don't get it. I don't understand it. Maybe because you have followers like this that are just willing to say, hey, you know, they told us it's going to be okay. They told us this is going to help. Like I said, we've been sold this bill of goods already. And it cost us, what, 70%, up to 70% for 20 years in tax abatements. And we've gotten nothing for it. Nothing. I'm not buying it. Not buying it for 1 second. And neither should anyone out there. $9.3 million. I tell you what, but I would compromise, though, because I'm a man of compromise. And I never complain unless I'm going to give you a solution, so I'm going to give you one. And I started. Take the 2 meeting rooms out of there. Let the cultural center be able to house those. Expand your children's library. And I say give half. Do some renovations. Build up some more digital. And cut some of your staff. That will help pay for it. That's a bloated salaries over there for what Google has now replaced you with. We upgraded with checkout kiosks. You want to do some more automation? I'm all for automation, especially when it comes to city government. Let's automate everything over there. And let's lower some staff. That will help pay for it. But that's not what's going to happen here. You guys are going to want more and more and more. And $9.3 million, again, is just the beginning of it. We need to get our heads out of our you-know-what sometime, because this is one of those times where we're going to look back and be like, why? Look what we did. And our children are going to pay for it. And I'll be damned if I'm going to let my children pay for this.
You're right, Joe, positively.
Mr. Petroselli, you've spoken already. Please do not interrupt when other people are speaking. Mr. Petroselli, I'll ask for the Meriden Police Department to come down and have you removed. Please behave like an adult. Go ahead, ma'am.
Good evening. My name is Daisy Hall, and I live on Beth Ann Circle. My husband has been a Meridenite all of his life. I've only been here since the early 80s, but I was a city employee at Memorial, and I have used the library for many years. I enjoy reading. I can take out many books. I'm also a friend of the library, but because my two daughters have moved out of state, I stopped buying books because it's very difficult to try and get them to them so that they can also enjoy it. So we have found that using the library has been very cost-effective for us. We also use the meeting room on several occasions. We have gone to several musical entertainment and even gone to some of the films that have been shown. We had 5 children that were never educated in Meriden, and we went to the very first meeting of the high school, and what started off as a fairly small amount grew to quite a large amount, but we realized that even though our children would not benefit from it, there were other children here in town that would be able to have a good education. And the 2 schools that were here were over 50 years old, and they had had it. So they had to be renovated and added on to and all of that. But with the library, we definitely do use it. And the one that was built back in the 70s was top-notch. It was enjoyed by other towns. They looked at it as the one to have, and since then they have done a lot of renovations, and this is why we have fallen behind. It is antiquated, and certainly the bathrooms alone will tell you that. And they have done a remarkable job, the staff has, to try and help everyone, but it is time to think of the future. We are well until the 21st century, and I, for one, do not have all the technology that most of you have, and I enjoy going to the library, reading the books, and I do feel that I am not alone in this, and come summer, the children are not in their schools. They do go to the library, even more so they can have their reading skills continue. And there are so many other things that they are looking into to improve and have it last for another 30 years or so. So I really do feel that it is going to be a well-worth project, and compared to the high schools that were only a few thousand, plus the staff each year, this is open to the city. We have 59,000 residents that have the right to come to the library and use it as they want. And the staff is more than willing to help, no matter if it's using the computers or using the books. You can even take out films and whatnot. There is so much there that can be utilized, and it really is an investment in the future. And yes, taxes are there, they're always going to be there, but inflation continues to rise, so we are better off doing it now and having it locked in and be able to enjoy it. Thank you.
Is there anyone else in the room wishing to speak on the library? Mr. Zebrowski.
Dan Zarowski. Again, let me go back to this bonding. You know, 2.5 years. Somebody, oh. Thank you, sir. 2.5 years. What did this library do? Nothing. Grants were available in the state of Connecticut. In 2.5 years, did they pursue them? No. One of the meetings I went to, they said, oh, the city manager can look into the $1 million. Hello. What happened 2.5 years ago? Why didn't they look for grants? Right down here, Penrose is building buildings down there. You mean to tell me we couldn't have gone to Penrose and said, hey, you want to be part of this community? Do you want to dedicate a wing from Penrose? No, nothing was done. $29,000 is in the coffers of the Friends of Libraries. Did you hear him say, we'll donate that money? I didn't hear it. But the $9.3 million, as Joe Villano alluded to, there's more. $120,000 to fix a freight elevator. Another $200,000 to buy the house on Catlin Street. So we can put up this big facade that lights up at nighttime, overlooks the Meriden Green, and says Meriden Public Library. An entrance that is phenomenal, all glass. And this is one of the things I said about Platt and Maloney High School, same thing. But again, looking at the age we're living in now, yes, we need to upgrade. We need to put things in perspective. But what did we miss? One word is called retrofit. St. Stan's, Mount Carmel, St. Mary's, St. Joseph's School, Lawrence School. Did they tear their buildings down? Did they add on? No. They retrofitted. And you mean to tell me this can't be done? Absolutely can be done. And let me allude to one of the things that kind of really got me is why did the Friends of the Library move from downtown and went back into the library? There's space that could be utilized. Now here's a perfect example. Put them downtown. Let the people see what's going on downtown. Let them actually be able to be part of that. Stop into one of the coffee shops over there. And like, again, Joe alluded to, why do we need a coffee shop inside of a library? We're trying to promote business downtown. We're trying to get people in there. And I thought about something tonight, and I says, boy, isn't this like Kevin Costner? Almost like build the library and they will come. But I have yet to see any facts that tell me X amount of teenagers come in there, X amount of children come in there, X amount of adults come in there. There's no figures. Nothing. In the 2.5 years, I would have thought would said, well, yeah, this is our big impact in the city of Meriden. Yes, we need to do something in regards to that. And I've said wholeheartedly, as I grew up in Meriden all my life except 4 years, and other people who have been in here 18 years, and saying that, oh, we need it, we need it, we need it. Right across the street. Do we need to go with this extravagant thing over here? We have a library over there. That could be dedicated to children and teenagers. It's a library that functions real well. $30,000 it costs the city of Meriden to keep this thing going. What? Why can't we use that over there? This would be a great place for them to have because, as I said, growing up as a kid, West Main and Maple Street, that was the children's library. Let's segregate them from there. But you bring in a coffee shop into that library, guess what? The shelter closes down in the daytime. Is the library going to be a warming shelter? Betcha. There's no doubt in my mind. No doubt in my mind whatsoever. And looking at, at the future, yes, there are many things. But we built extravagant libraries in our schools. We have given children computers. I mean, what more do we really need to push for? Yes, some of our adults do like to get into the aspect of computers. I mean, and I applaud them the fact that, they go out there. Matter of fact, my mother-in-law's in a nursing home, and they're teaching them how to use computers, and it's a great thing. But the thing of it is does this amount of money really constitute a big bonding for the city of Meriden? And again, as I said, we are broke. We need to look at some way that we can go in there and say, well, here's what we've got. And look at the other places in the city of Meriden have gone for grants. Nobody pursued it. But all of a sudden now, dump it on the taxpayers. Well, I'm sorry, I'm one of the taxpayers that says, don't dump on me. And I applaud the people in the library, because they do it, they're very efficient in there. But let's look at something that's a little more, and like I said, a little more perspective in regards to the city of Meriden. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Laura Corchetto. I live at 26 Pearl Street. I don't usually speak at these types of meetings very often, but I find the library very important. I have 3 children, one in college, one in high school, and one in middle school. We've used the library since I was a child growing up in Meriden. You know, we've all gone to the library for meetings. One of my greatest examples I'd like you to think about is my son came to me last year and said, "Hey, Mom, I have a project to do with a friend. Can I go over their house?" Okay. I don't let my kids go to other people's house. I don't know about you. Until I really know somebody, my kid's not going to your house. So the library was a safe place for them to meet and be together and do a project. That can't happen all the time after school hours in the schools. That is a place where not only our children meet, but adults can meet safely to have conversations. We don't have a lot of places like that, because if you go to the mall, you're getting escorted out because you're loitering. There needs to be a place, including for our homeless, to get warm when needed, and for other things to happen in this city, where people could congregate and become part of the city, is in the library. I just want to say I do support this. I pay a lot of taxes. I'm a homeowner. I own cars. Yes, it probably will increase our taxes some, but is it worth it? I say yes. And if everybody contributes, maybe it won't hurt as much. Thank you.
John Malavenda, Meriden. I think we all agree the library needs some type of renovation. And I think everybody knows that it does a great job. I visit it all the time. But if you attend other meetings in town, you'll see there's other needs that are kind of important to finish this whole spectrum with downtown, especially with flood control. We're looking at millions of dollars that we're going to need for flood control. We're talking about a senior citizen center, in which I tried to advocate for that when they had the Choice Neighborhood Grant meeting down at Lincoln. I think it's terrible what the seniors, have down there. I tried to say, let's take Cook Avenue, make that a senior housing. You got Factory H all cleaned up. What a beautiful place for seniors. So I think that is kind of important in the next few years, to get something nice for the seniors. And, I heard, children, teen center. I didn't hear really a lot going on with what's needed for the seniors at the library. Yeah, we probably do need a teen center or, children's center. I don't know why, I see people shaking their heads when the, Curtis Memorial Building comes up. When that was transferred over to the Y, I was like, why can't we give it to the library? Let them utilize it. There's got to be some way they could utilize that building. I mean, the city pays for it anyway. So, I don't know about spending $9 million right now. That's my only concern with all the other stuff. I mean, we're looking for funding for the downtown. We're looking for, there's just a lot of stuff that's going on, So I know it's always put in the back burner, but, maybe we could, over the years, try to put a little bit in at a time. That's all. Thank you.
Anyone else in the room wishing to speak?
Tom Impronto, Hall Avenue. I am against the $9.3 million renovation. I can't bring up many more items than they already brought up. I just want it known that I'm against it. We need it. I don't think we need $9.3 million. And there's one other thing Joe brought up. I have an iPhone here. This is an i7. The i10 came out, what, 2-3 years ago? I see kids 10 years old walking around with 10s. So you're going to tell me that you need computers for kids? They got better phones than I do. So I just want to let them know, and I just disagree with it.
Is there anyone else in the room wishing to speak on this project? Ma'am?
I really don't like speaking in public. My name is Jan Lloyd. I live at 49 Cass Street in Meriden. I am not a lifelong resident. I moved here in 1988. I like the city of Meriden. But for somebody who's come from somewhere else, when you look at a city, you want to look at their education system. You want to look at what they provide for your future and for your children. And a library is one of those places that does that. I've heard people say that we should use the Curtis Center, but if you want to talk about costs, that means you have to increase your staff to provide for 2 buildings. You have to increase the utilities to provide for 2 buildings. Whereas the 9.3, even though when I think about millions, it kind of blows me away, because when I was younger, we didn't talk in millions, we talked in tens of thousands. And I think that's part of the problem with a lot of the speakers here, is that, you know, parents with kids are home feeding their kids right now. They're not at a 5:30 meeting for the city. And seniors do attend, and I do appreciate seniors' concerns, but the library would be a place for seniors as well. There's not very many congregating points in Meriden. There really isn't. I grew up in a town that had 2 libraries that had 35,000 people. And we had a teen center, and it was in the middle of the Midwest. It's very conservative, so it doesn't have to be a Democratic or Republican issue. I think the library is one of those jewels that a city can speak to when it promotes itself, not only to business, but for people who will come and pay taxes. And that's what you want. You want people that come here to live, to use your facilities, and to pay taxes, to become part of that base that pays for projects. If you don't have projects that speak to their needs, then you're not going to have taxpayers that pay taxes. That's all I have to say.
Is there anyone else in the room wishing to speak? Anyone else in the room wishing to speak on the library? Going once? Going twice? Closed. All right, so the public hearings are now closed. We've been going for almost an hour and a half. I suspect we're going to go for at least another hour and a half. Does anyone want to take a 5-minute recess? Yeah. Okay. If we could take a 5-minute recess without objection, and I really mean a 5-minute recess. So we're going to be back here at 6:55 by that clock. Thank you.